record this. So I'm still waiting for some people to send me their homework. I gave extension time for that, but you should do it. You should send it to me, because if I did not receive your work, well, then your grade gets lower, right? And I'm sure that if you have a good result on the test, and I think most people did very well on the test, and you probably studied for it, right? And if you studied, you did some preparation, you wrote something, so make pictures of all that and send it to me if you did not. That's for people that did not submit homework as of yet. I'm sure you know that if you did not send me homework. In fact, I also send reminders about that by email, and well, so submit it. I will give full credit as long as you do it and send it to me. And if you're not clear on anything, just let me know, because I'm trying to help and doing my best to give you the best grade. And you can see this, I hope, on the blackboard. I hope everyone was able to see the grade on the blackboard. If not, let me know. I will tell you what your grade is. Just put your name in the chat. And again, to see your grade, you should log into Blackboard using something other than cell phone, because in a cell phone, sometimes grades are not visible. Depends on the cell phone, I guess. That's why I highly recommend just get a desktop, or if you're on campus, just log in Blackboard from library. That's where they have those computers, and we will see how you're doing in this class. So we looked at first section of chapter 4. Our goal is to continue working with this same chapter 4. I'm waiting for your questions. Someone asked me if the grade could be improved for the class, and that's a very good idea. I'm always supporting if you want to improve your grade. So how do I support? Well, if you send me extra credit exercises, I will grade them, but I need to see work, because in this book, you get the answer right away. So if you just copy the answers, well, that's not really much, right? Because copying answers does not really teach you how to do math. It teaches you calligraphy, so you get to write things better, which is also a good, but not for math class, right? So for math class, you want to do some math. And that's why when you send me extra credit exercises to get better grade, if you want to, show all work, just like you did on the midterm exam. I asked you to show work, and I think everyone shown work. I was very happy, and so I gave you a good grade on the test. You want to keep grader happy, right? The grader gets happy, gives a good grade. That's the point. And so show work if you want to improve your class grade. And again, it's on the Blackboard. I updated class grades last week. If you want to get better, then send me like 3 even extra credit problems anywhere you like in this textbook. You like this section, you can send me any even problems, like 28, 36. So just select some problems and send them to me. But again, show work, and I guess I'll right away give you extra credit points, so you will have your grade bumped up to the higher one. And I think it's always a good idea to get a better grade. In fact, I don't think it's very hard to do 3 problems. I'm not asking you for 300, right? So think about it. But again, it's your decision. If you like your grade, if you're happy with it, perfect. Just move on, do same thing you did before. So let me do some problems here to refresh what we have done, like start with exercise 47. And again, I'm waiting for your questions. We are in the section 1 of chapter 4. So section 4.1, I want to see if you have any questions. So this is 15, which is greater than 2x minus 7. And at the same time, it's greater than 9. So it looks like we're going to find x here. And to find x, I need to add 7 everywhere to this inequality, to all parts of it, right? So the point of the story is to isolate letter x. So first step will be to find what 2x is in between. So it's like double inequality, but you should still solve it the way we solved inequalities with only one variable letter on one side. So it looks like I get a 26 on one side and then 2x and then 16. So it's improved a little bit in terms of finding x. And now I do my last step. I divide by 2 each portion of my inequalities. So x will be in between of numbers 8 and 13. So this is it. We know where x is. That's our solution. Now, notice that you could also make a picture of this. So the same answer you can write with a picture or graph it on number line. And you don't have to do this, but that's helpful to better see what is going on. In fact, you can see they did that same exact thing here as well, right? So in exercise, they put the numbers here and there, and when you say it looks like it's I was not careful. I think it's 15. Looks like their answer is a little different. See, it's helpful to be able to observe what's wrong, why I didn't get the same answer. Well, let's see, 16 over 2 on one side, and then I add 15 and 7, I get 26. I got 13 on one side and 8 on the other. So it looks like here is a little misprint in the textbook. You see, that's 11 they put here, but it's not really 11 because 26 over 2 is 13. So this is really the mistake I discovered in this exercise. How about that? Well, I'm sure the author knows very well how to do problems, but sometimes they get a misprint, and that's what we just discovered in this textbook. So there are 3 different ways to write down the same answer, 3 different ways, and either one is okay for the result, but the most popular is interval from 8 to 13. So now, when you discover some kind of mistakes, turns out that, well, new edition of the textbook will be coming. In fact, if you look at the beginning of this textbook, you can see there are lots of people discovered mistakes in this textbook in the answers or someplace else. And usually authors appreciate it by placing their names in the beginning of book in so-called acknowledgements. Let's see if they have it here in this book. I didn't check, but let's see. So it turns out that whoever writes a letter to the author, oh, here's acknowledgements. See, they have lots of people that already discovered one mistake or the other, and the author usually puts in the beginning of the textbook such as acknowledgements, and they also have additional acknowledgements. And your name might also appear here in the beginning of the textbook, and they, instead of saying, say, Auckland Community College, they will put Miami-Dade College. But if you find a few misprints of the answers and send them to the authors, and they will definitely appreciate that. They will utilize it for their future editions. So you can see lots of people here. So why are they here? Well, because looks like there were quite a few misprints. You see how many people here? And it's not really just for this textbook. It's standard for pretty much every text that you have in mathematics. So that's the thing to realize. Was it 261, the page? I think somewhere in that area. So anyways, so don't panic when the answer in the textbook is not identical with yours. Maybe you did the problem correctly, maybe just a misprint. So let me solve another exercise here, like number 57, for example. Another inequality, but now there are two of them put together. Let's look at 57 that says -4 is multiplied by x plus 2 inside the parentheses, and then it's greater than or equal to 12, or 3x plus 8 is less than 11. So it looks like those are two separate inequalities, and indeed, you need to solve both of them separately, and then see what you can do to find x. So the second one, I can work out pretty straightforward way, just drop 8 on both sides of this and get a 3x is less than 3. And then you divide both sides of your inequality by positive number 3. Remember, we had a little extra that said if you divide by negative, the inequality changes its direction. But if you divide by positive, it doesn't. So this rule is used for the first inequality. When I divide both sides of it by -4, my inequality now is going to be less than or equal to instead of greater than or equal to. You see, direction of inequality changes. So we are little by little getting closer and closer to find unknown x. So if I -2 on both sides, then we get that x is less than or equal to -5. So once I have found two solutions, I make pictures. So one of them is 1 and no equal sign, so open circle, and we go to the left from 1, and then the other is -5. Notice -5 is a little bit to the left, and x is also less than or equal. So I fill that circle. So the question is, if I take or, in other words, if I take everything covered by these inequalities, then the answer will actually be from -infinity all the way to +1, because that's where their union is. Remember, union, when we have or one or the other, it means a union of everything, so everything that belongs to both. And looks like the second inequality, actually the first one, does not really bring me with any extra stuff. It's a part of the first one. So technically the first one is a solution here. And that's worth to give a little thought over the weekend, because it's interesting that we had to kind of ignore this first inequality, right? Because it happened to be a part of the second one. These things happen. In fact, in mathematics, anything can happen. So I just want to, I guess, give a little special attention to this. So today I'd like to start working on section 4.2. Turns out section 4.2 is pretty interesting section. It deals with absolute values. So for example, if you have absolute value of x equals to 2, then x itself could be 2, right? But there is another possibility. X could also be a -2. Please notice that instead of x inside the absolute value bars, I can use -2. And absolute value will make it positive. And of course, if I get +2 for x, this also be a solution. So the point is, when you solve your equation with absolute values, it splits into two pieces. whenever you rid of absolute value bars. So today I'd like to just look at the equations with absolute values, and next time we'll look at the inequalities. So let me try the exercises as usual from practice. So how about if I try exercise 33? That's where this whole thing starts. In exercise number 33, we trying to find x when absolute value is equal to number 4. I say, just like in the previous exercise, there are two answers. One is +4, the other is -4. And sometimes people write this with one equation that says x is either +4 or -4. So this plus minus stands for two possible answers. How about exercise number 39? Another equation with absolute value. It says here, take a look at absolute value of 3 minus 4x. And this is the same as or equal to number 5. Well, looks like I can find x by breaking this again into two separate equations. So one will be with a +5 and the other will be with a -5. So notice that when I want to get rid of absolute value bars, I always get two possibilities, one with a plus sign with the other with a minus sign, just like in the previous exercise. So here I wrote it with two separate equations. So now I can find x. So I'm gonna drop 3 on both sides as well as there, same thing. So we start to isolate our x a little by little. So the first one turns into -4x is equal to 2. And then I divide both sides by -4 and find x, right? So when I divide by -4, it looks like x will be something negative, right? It'll be minus what? 1/2. Okay, -1/2. You can see that's one of the answers, but there's also the other answer here. So -4x is still going to be equal to negative. Now it's number -8. So I divide both sides by -4. So follow the standard method. Isolate our unknown. So when I divide both sides by -4, I get my answer. X is 2. So I got two answers, just like they have here in the, I guess, down below this question. So my message is, if you want to do extra exercises, show work, because just copying those answers 2 and -2, well, it's not good enough, because how do you know the answers are 2 and -2 if you just look at this type of equation? You need to definitely do a little bit extra in order to get to that point. And that's the idea. So show what you need to do if you want to raise your grade, and that way I'll be more than happy to raise your grade if you want to. So anyways, 10 is on the right side. So now again, I see the absolute values that I want to make disappear, but it turns out I have to prepare a little bit first. So what I do is I take that 7 away. So in order to be able to make my absolute values to disappear, I must actually to isolate the absolute values first. Well, and then we can put down two equations without any absolute values. One with a 3 and the other is with a -3. So please notice that's a standard process, and whatever inside the absolute values, I just copy. I don't really care what's inside. What I care about is +3 or -3. That's what can sit here in a place of absolute value. So I could put either -3 here inside, and that's my second equation. Or I can put +3, because absolute values of both will be equal to 3. So now I need to find x, and looks like we're pretty much finished, because for the first one, x is equal to 0, and for the second, x is equal to -6. So that's how you solve absolute value equations. You simply make absolute values to go away. Let me do number 55, and then you can try one. So in exercise number 55, we have two absolute values. How about that? So let's see what this means. Well, it turns out that the first one, x over 2 plus 2, could be equal to x over 2 minus 2. X over 2 minus 2. So I can split this into two different equations. So notice that if absolute values are the same, then these expressions could be the same, or one may be positive, the other may be negative. So the point of the story is that I can write that x over 2 plus 2 could be either equal to the same x over 2 minus 2, or it could be x over 2 plus 2 have the opposite sign, which is going to be a minus in front of that x over 2 plus 2. So it turns out that's the only pair of possibilities for the absolute values to be equal. They could be either same, or one positive, the other negative. And that's what I just wrote. And now I can just solve these two separately and see what the answer is going to be. So what I can do is bring the x's to one side and the numbers over to the other side. And I end up with a 0 on one side is equal to -4. When I say, Alex, this is not right. 0 is not -4. So then it says no solution. For the first one, there is no way you can find the answer if you solve such an equation. So whenever you try to solve something and end up with something that makes no sense, well, it means the whole equation makes no sense. It means you don't have a solution. Let me solve the second one here. So I'm gonna, first of all, make my parentheses to disappear. So I copy the left side, but then I distribute the minus. So I get a minus x over 2, and then minus and minus will be plus, right? Plus 2. And similarly to the previous, I'm going to bring the x terms to the left side. So I put x over 2 plus x over 2 here, and the numbers on the right side. So x over 2 plus x over 2, that give me 2x over 2, which is 2, right? Which is just 1. And on the other side, it's 0. So x is 0, and that's our answer. And that's what they have here as well. So we solve equations with absolute values, and the way to work them out will be to get rid of the absolute values. And that's the point of this section. So as promised, I will stop at this stage, because next time on Monday, I plan to continue with the rest of it with inequalities. So today I just want to do equations up to exercise 55. So how about if you try to solve one little equation for the quiz. Let's say, how about if I ask you to solve for x equation that says absolute value of x is equal to 5. So can you tell me what values of x are? And you can look at exercise 33 above. That's pretty much same. X in absolute value is 4. So to solve it, I used two numbers. One was +4, the other was -4. I think the equation I'm asking is pretty much same. So what values of x come out from equation absolute value of x is equal to 5? And that'd be our little quiz for today. So do it and put the answers in the chat. And then you can go. And if you want to discuss anything related to the quiz or to the midterm or to the homework or to your grade, well, just let me know. You can put your question in the chat and we can definitely do that. Or just wait for others to be finished with this and we can just talk here in Zoom.